in all of this discussion about crime and using crime to justify federalizing the Washington D.C. police, sending the National Guard into Los Angeles or into New York City or Detroit or whatever other cities Donald Trump is talking about today. Baltimore was another one. There's a broader question, which is, what are we doing to prevent crime? And I alluded to this earlier in the show. This is an entire area of governance and policy that is just missing from serious discussions right now. I listen, it's worse on the right. You sometimes get this with Democrats too, but it's significantly worse on the right, which is, what about dealing with root causes? And what about dealing with economic determinants and sociocultural determinants? Well, here's an example of it. Jeanine Pirro, who is now U.S. Attorney for D.C., of course, she's bigly supportive of everything Donald Trump is doing, criminalizing homelessness, taking down encampments, federalizing the D.C. police. She loves all of it. She was asked a really good question. What about crime prevention? And she just straight up goes, I don't care about that.
My prosecutors.
You just walked through the changes you'd like to see from the punitive aspects. What about preventative? Do you or the president plan to do anything to address the root causes of crime in D.C., such as truancy?
My job is to try to heal the victims and prosecute the criminal. Everybody else can deal with rehabilitating the individual. I honestly am not concerned about why they commit crimes.
We know.
My concern is if they commit crimes. My concern is the victims of the crimes. That's my job as a U.S. attorney. Go ahead.
But just follow up on that quickly.
So there's this has to do with political expediency. I mean, you can say she's a U.S. attorney, she's doing prosecution. Fine, right? That's not crazy. But the trend line here is, we look at undocumented immigration. They go, oh, do we need a wall? What about visa overstays? Can we put a new detention camp? Let's build alligator Alcatraz. Do we get mosquito nets or just let the detainees be exposed to the mosquito? But there's the question of, what are we doing to prevent people from even trying to come here illegally in the first place? And that has to do with what's happening in the home countries. Republicans do not like to deal with that. They often see foreign aid as a waste of money. But that's actually where it starts. Yes, you're allowed to have border enforcement. Of course, you're allowed to do all of that. But at a certain point, we have to look at, why are undocumented immigrants trying to come here in the first place? And it has to do with what's going on in their countries. It's not very politically sexy to do that. Building a wall, even if you never build it, and even if Mexico never pays for it, or a migrant detention camp that you can bring cameras to and bring reporters to and do a whole dog and pony show, that plays far better than, hey, you know what? We're going to focus on working with some of these countries to improve the circumstances there. And we might be able to reduce the number of people who even try to come to the U.S. by 50%. It doesn't make headlines. Where can you go to show that? And so we see the exact same thing here with crime. The sorts of social programs, the sorts of tax policy, the sorts of infrastructure that prevent people from turning to crime to begin with, making sure everybody has health care, making sure nobody's going hungry, making sure that people are, growing up, even if they are in subsidized housing, that the subsidized housing is an environment that is not conducive to crime and builds community. It's not appealing. It's not attractive. Now, there are some Republicans who are morally opposed to that as well. They go, they don't deserve it. What they deserve is to be allowed to grow up in environments that point you to crime, and then we'll just punish them when they commit the crime. But that is, if you want to seriously deal with this issue, you've got to deal with the root causes. Now, Jeanine Pirro, who was particularly unhinged during this event, she also was asked about violence prevention. And she just goes, oh, stop it. Stop it, you.
Out of time? That means he's had enough. Goodbye. Thank you. I want you to report on it.
But you said it's guns. You said it's guns on the street that's causing this problem. Are you concerned that the DOJ's funding cuts to gun violence prevention programs undermine the efforts?
Stop it. We are putting all kinds of resources onto the street.
But what
There
about
you
the
go.
gun aspect of the gun violence?
Thanks.
There you go. Wow. Wow. Particularly unhinged. And then finally, I don't think this statement from Jeanine Pirro is going to come as a surprise to any of us. It's really the embodiment of MAGA. Here's what she said.
I am, I'm not going to bore you with the facts. Don't quote me on that.
She's not going to bore us with the facts. You know, Jeanine, I think we knew that. You were not going to even deal with fact. That is now the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., a Trump suck-up who got her goodie bag, which is this job. Terrifying, terrifying stuff.